All right, hi, it's Dr. Doug Curtis.
And Lucy Curtis from Dyslexic and Unstoppable. Our mission is to help dyslexics to discover their inner power.
That's right, and thanks for joining us for the three massive mistakes that smart moms make that keep them worried about their dyslexic children. Let me just get the slides going here. Um, we were supposed to have a special guest. It kind of looks like she may not have been able to make it yet. That's okay. If she comes on, we'll catch up with her a little bit. So let me get this here. Just minimize this, and we're good. All right. Um, so anyway, so like we said, I'm Dr. Doug Curtis and Lucy here. So our seminar is called the three big mistakes that smart moms make when they discover their kids are dyslexic, right? And so we're going to do these kind of like the third biggest down to the least, the biggest, right? So the third biggest we call lone wolf syndrome. And what do we mean by that?
Well, when you first um, start this journey on dyslexia, first of all, you don't even realize what it is. And then you also feel like you're the only person going
Mm,
through that, right? So you're like in this massive world of unknown.
mm. Exactly. Yeah, I can remember when we were, because you see all these other kids, reading seems to, be like that for them. They pick it up
Right.
right away. They, there's no struggle, and yet you sit down with your child, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's so hard, and it can feel like I'm the only one going through this. So you kind of feel like you have to go it alone, right? Um, and what's the problem with this? I mean, one of the problems is that you kind of fumble around. I mean, from our perspective, think what are the things that we did that maybe didn't
Well,
work out as well as we could have.
I guess first is trying to figure out what was going on.
Right.
So, right, they were saying our son was really smart, but should repeat first grade, and they
Uh,
didn't really know why. So for us, it was like, well, no, we're not going to do that like that. But when you're not sure what's going on, so you could say, well, okay, we'll do that, but not really know what the problem is.
mm,
So then we were like, okay, well, let's try to figure out what the problem is. So he was struggling with reading,
mm,
and especially when you have a second child, and it's super easy for this second child
right.
who's younger, then you really see that there's something going on. So the first thing that we did was the wrong reading classes,
Right.
right? So that because you don't realize that there are different ways of learning and different ways of teaching and all
Mm,
these things. So then you end up all in these different places that you don't need to be when you have somebody else on your journey with you.
right. Exactly. And like with us, I can remember we kind of just went online and looked for reading classes, and we stumbled on a major reading class or reading institution,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a great institution. It's a great class if you're just, you need to get caught up to grade level. If you're just a little bit behind, maybe English is a second language or something like that. But for the dyslexic child, it wasn't right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is speech was another one with us. Right.
Right, because they were saying at the beginning, they were saying it was developmental, and then they were like, okay, you have to wait, and after we look back, and because we did the book, we really noticed that there was too many signs that were showing up that were dyslexics, that
Right.
he should have started uh, speech lessons a long time ago. At the
Right.
same time, he did the reading.
Right, exactly. The one thing is, when we talk about this mistake of lone wolf, on the other hand, you don't want to be the opposite. You don't want to be a sheep, right? You don't want to
Mm,
be like, oh, well, they're the experts; they know everything. I'll just follow whatever they say, right? Because in our case, that would have ended up with
right.
him repeating first grade, not getting the help he needed,
Mm,
and at the end of the second year of first grade, he would have been in the same boat, right?
right.
So. Um, it really means that
Well, sometimes you have to. I say that all the time. You have to trust your gut as a
mm,
parent,
mm,
and even with um, dyslexics and non-dyslexic kids, because we had the same situation with our daughter, who was put in the wrong preschool, which we thought she was actually in kindergarten, pre-kindergarten, where she was actually not. And she was in a class below, and she was acting like the kids in the classroom, not reflecting who she was. And a new teacher, brand new, was saying, "Oh well, we're the experts and all that stuff," and we're like, no, because Doug has been in pediatrics for a very long time, and parents come to him to decide if they're ready to go to kindergarten or not. And we went with our instincts, and we said, no, if you don't move her, she is going to a different school. And when we ended up going to a new school, and the first week the teacher said, wow, she's ready for first grade.
Right.
So
she could have gone even further ahead. Right?
Exactly. It was like, sometimes you really have to, even though you feel like you don't know the jargon, that you're confused, but you still have to go and say, something doesn't feel right here, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't mean you shouldn't take the lead. It just means that you don't want to go it all alone. And one of the reasons why you may not want to go it all alone, and why making a mistake is you may not get the services you need. Like, we could have gone down that road of just that generic reading class and not gotten the services you need.
Well, the one place we didn't get it is the speech, right? So we finagled through the wrong channels,
right?
And now he's in high school, not high school, going to high school, but he's in middle school, and he's still doing speech because
we didn't take care of it early.
Yeah,
right, exactly. And I think luckily his speech doesn't affect these things, but if the reading hadn't been corrected, if we had done the lone wolf thing and not figured out what reached out to people and figured out what was going on, could have led to further frustration, sleepless nights on our part, right? Because we're up worrying about him, but also the self-esteem, right? It's a big part of it, right? And that's the
well, even when he was struggling, and our daughter started reading, so she was 4, and because she was so advanced, she was reading chapter books. So imagine, he's 21 months older, and she's catching up, because not only is she's just not just catching up, she's ahead at the time. Right. So he was feeling already the pressure of that. So if it would have taken longer for him to get services, then it would have taken him longer to overcome the challenges that he had, and that you start second guessing yourself, right? So because we went, we figured out from the beginning, like, we did only 2 months of the wrong reading classes for him, and right away, at the end of so we did that from like April, May to the end of June. In June, we got into the school for dyslexics, and the journey started right away. So we didn't waste too much time with the reading.
We were lucky we got into an Orton Gillingham type
by default.
Exactly. And I think part of it also, when you're in that frustration, when you're trying to go it alone, the other thing is the sleepless nights for the parents. It kind of makes you doubt your ability. You're like, what am I doing? I'm not. What kind of parent am I? And this was especially big for me because on top of it, I'm like, here I'm this Yale trained pediatrician, and I'm having issues, So anyway, so some of the things that parents can do. The first thing is, reach out now you can go online, right? So systems like Orton Gillingham and those types of systems are the ones you're going to want to do. So Susan Barton's systems based on Orton Gillingham, another number of these different places. Plus, there are all these communities. On our Facebook page, you talk to other parents. There's a bunch of other groups on Facebook where you can talk to other parents. But there's places where you can reach out to other people and kind of feel like you're not in it all by yourself. Right? All right. So we'll move on to the second big mistake. The second big mistake is feeling like a fish out of water. And by this we mean the mistake of not learning the system fast enough, right?
You're
So
overwhelmed,
yeah,
right? You don't
exactly.
even know where to start. You have all these people, even though you can be a professional.
Right.
Doesn't matter if you're professional, not professional. You all of a sudden they're like having all these meeting. You're intimidated. You don't know what the words mean.
Hmm.
All this frustration and stress, and then trying to figure out what is the right class, or what is
Right.
the right service, or who can really help you, or is this the right thing, or is this ADHD, or is it dyslexia, or is it
Right.
something else, or is it all of it, or
Mm.
it's really intimidating.
Yeah, and even for us, I think any parent, but we've been through the system. I take care of all these kids through my practice and help parents with, finding the right services and that kind of stuff. But even for us, I mean, we've told this story before where, we were at my office. I was a Saturday and I was seeing patients, and Lucy was there because we were going to go do something afterwards. And I came into the my office after seeing a patient, and the look on her face was
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh. And I said, what's going on? And you said, she had this the Vanderbilt scale in her hand, which is the scale we use to make the diagnosis of ADHD. And she's like, oh my gosh, Felix Alexander has all of these things, right?
Hmm.
So you feel like, oh my gosh, that's the problem, right?
Hmm.
Or I need to fix the reading, and I also need to fix the speech, and his writing needs help too. And where do I start, and that kind of stuff. Um, and I think the other thing the fish out of water system, fish out of water mistake can lead to is um, feeling like you're at the mercy of the experts, right?
Hmm.
Like even in our case, when we met with the school system, it was a little intimidating, right? It was a
Hmm.
little intimidating. You have the principal or director of the school, the teachers, maybe the speech teacher there. You have all these
Hmm.
professionals, and you're just a lone parent. You kind of feel like
Hmm.
you're a fish out of water. You don't
Well,
know
the,
what to
the other thing
trust.
is also, if you live in certain states, it is not recognized.
Hmm.
So then it's going to be even more difficult to get services if you are, and if you don't know what they are, or sometimes the school doesn't have a lot of funding for it. So there's if you don't have the backing to know what your rights are, or what
Hmm.
you need, then you don't know what to ask for,
Right.
right? and
Exactly.
and fight for it, or go see the right person to
Right.
to help you get the services. Sometimes you have to go outside of the system, or outside of the school, to get a letter to bring in, so that the system moves
Right.
faster too. So
Right.
there's all these
Yeah.
scenarios going
Right.
on.
And the other thing is the jargon, right? The school system, the psychologists, all the professionals, they use all this jargon, and they throw all these things like PPTs and IEPs, and it's all
Mm.
alphabet soup, right? And you're like, okay, what does all that mean? And then you go to a meeting where they're trying to determine what services your child gets, and they hand you a paper and say, here, sign this, and you're like,
Mm.
you kind of feel like a fish out of water, right? So um, I want to move on to the second one, I think. We'll talk a little bit more about this fish out of water, because I think this is one place where, having gone through this,
Mm.
all of our tools and strategies and courses and all the things we offer, it's because we've been through it, right? It comes from our
Right,
experience.
right.
So we'll talk more about that. So the big mistake, Lucy titled this "Start with Left, End with Right," and it's about not using the right strategies to do
Right.
homework, that kind of stuff.
Mm.
So what do we mean by this?
Well, sometimes a good example is the spelling, right? Is um, rote memorization, right?
Mm,
You're gonna do it over and over and over. We have our daughter, who I don't even have to help her with anything.
mm,
She has 10 words. She'll look at them. She'll say it. She'll write it. Blah blah blah. She's done. Boom. It's
right.
fine. We had our son, who it went on and on and on, and you'd the sight words and the spelling words, and
Mm,
you would say it, and 2 minutes later he would remember the when and the where and the
right.
how and the who, and you were like, what is going on? And
Yeah.
then you were like, try to do the the traditional way of learning until we started doing some researches and what the reading classes helped us put together is you realize that it's not their fault. They learn differently, so you have to approach it in a different way.
Mm.
And you can talk about that doctor. That was really
Yeah.
interesting. That
Yeah. So, because school systems tend to, um, they tend to let the left brain logical thinkers be the one that actually flourish, right? And our systems don't allow for the multiple intelligence. And this Dr. Howard Gardner, here I'll move to the next slide, talks about the 9 intelligences. There are actually 9 different intelligences, and you can read them on the screen here. But in addition to the word smart kids, the kids that like our daughter who pick up reading and writing and that kind of stuff easily, there's the art smart kids, the kids who are more visual spatial. Lucy, you're big on this visual spatial stuff. You know, she'll
I still use it today.
yeah. Well, any project we have, you can see the end in sight at the very beginning, right? It's all there for you. There's the body smart, the people that maybe good at sports or dance or whatever, but they're also that's how they learn, right? And the same with music. Interpersonal. I mean, there's some people who are just great at feeling emotions in other people and know what they're thinking and that kind of stuff. And then intrapersonal are the people that are very self-aware, that kind of stuff. And then you can read the other 2. So there are these 9 different intelligences, and when you are unsure and you're using the wrong method, you're teaching your child in a way that he or she doesn't learn, right? And I think of, when I was trying to get him to learn the sight words and the spelling words, and, I am about as left-brained as it comes. And I always say I got through medical school because that's what I did. I just went through it over and over and over again, and it stuck in. And I would be doing it with him, and I'm like, why is this not working? And it wasn't till later on.
Well, I think of your mom. I hope she's not listening. But she was a teacher, and she was like, "No, this is how we do it," and things like that. And she had a son that was dyslexic, and she didn't know in those days. But still, when it got to our son, she would still be ingrained in that. Writing it down and saying it, and then they would, when they were babysitting and they were getting frustrated, they were like, and I would tell her, he doesn't study like that.
Right, exactly.
It's not going to work, even though like there was a great story about a lady who was a lawyer, and she was helping her daughter learn math, and she kept, drilling her like her way of doing it. And eventually the director of the dyslexia school said, "Your daughter doesn't learn like that. Do it, even though you don't get it, do it a different way so that you can see that your child can learn it." And then that person had such a hard time letting go of how she learned, right? And then she eventually said, "Okay, I'll try this other way." And then she saw, wow, okay, she doesn't learn like me, but it's difficult. For me, I'm dyslexic, so I learn this crazy way. And I do all these pictures. Like there was something about studying, and I would do pictures, and I can remember all these things, but like you were going to a CME, a course there for doctors, and the guy was, no, for your boards. Was it for the boards?
Yeah, I was studying for the boards. That's right. And one of the study aids I had, he was using all these metaphors and pictures and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, just memorize it, already, because that's not how I learn, right? I'm much more logical, number smart.
But you were saying, if I have to remember all these pictures, I'll never remember what I need to remember. For me, I was like, oh yeah, I get it.
Right. So, and it also reminds me of the time we were on vacation with my brother, and dyslexia runs in families. So my dad probably has dyslexia. My brother Mark surely does, and his son does too. And they were trying to go over some spelling words or something like that. And
he was trying to read a little book, and he couldn't read the books.
Yeah,
the book, and it was and everybody was frustrated.
Yeah, I saw my brother and his. You could just see his tension going up, and I saw myself there. I was like, oh my gosh, that was me in first grade with Felix Alexander, right? And then Lucy just calmly came over and showed some of our more right brain techniques that we've learned over the years, and
it was butterfly.
Yeah,
and we just divided it and did all the things, and he was like, butterfly.
Right, he got it right away. And then not only that, does he like, oh wow, I can read. And then my brother's tension, like you could feel it, just the tension in the room just kind of went down, you know. So let me just X out of this here. I'm going to pull this back up so we can talk to people. One thing, you know, this goes back to why you should, you know, learn the correct ways of studying is, I think, you know, I look at kids who haven't, you know, I take care of a lot of kids in my practice. And I look at kids who haven't gotten the help and maybe had to stay back or whatever. And they start to feel they're not smart. They start to doubt their own intelligence. And we all know dyslexic kids are smart, right? They have this gift for people to give to people. And if you don't, you know, if you don't help them and get them the confidence early on, then as we always say at the beginning of our talks and our videos and everything, they won't rediscover their inner power. They won't find that gift, that thing that they're really, really great at, right? Right now, I didn't know if anybody had any questions they wanted to ask. If you do, you're welcome to put them in the chat there. If not, we were going to move on just a little bit. I wanted to just talk to you about some of the things that we have, because, you know, like I said, we've done this. Our son's now, what, 13 in end of 8th grade. And, you know, we first started this journey, well, a bit in preschool and kindergarten, but it really, really started in first grade, right?
Right. Well, it started in nursery school, right? But we didn't realize it was that.
Right.
So, but it really, really showed up when he was a little bit in kindergarten, but at the end of first grade was really when we were like, okay, something is, you know, you always have a sense that something is off. You know, your kid is smart, you know, and then we had the December baby, the little guy, but it was really at the end of first grade that we started investigating and getting the services. And now he's, you know, in private school doing really well, and he's overcome everything. Like, as we say, overcoming dyslexia doesn't mean it goes away, because there's no such thing. It's what are the tools that you've gathered and used and learned to help you with whatever issues you have. He has issues with reading, so he spent 4 years at a dyslexia school in the summer, and then during school, after school, to learn techniques of decoding words and all the grammar and things like that. So he has you know, great comprehension. I would say that spelling is really good, but it still remains something that he struggles with. But his teachers are aware. He still does. He's very creative. He's they're able to see beyond that, because you know, like, he'll do like punctuation issues, and sometimes it shows up in other subjects like science or things like that. So is it completely gone forever? No, there's no such thing. But he is confident. He feels good about himself. We always talk about, have you tried your best? If you know, there's like, if he lost some points for grammar or spelling or things like that, and he says, I did my best, and then that's all you can ask for, you know? So he's happy and doing well. So for us, the journey of having, like, he's still doing speech, but we're almost done with that too. He had a list, they fixed that up. So now he's working with the public speaking and things like that. So it is a journey, but for us, we're at the end of our journey. and he's really independent and all these things,
Yeah.
and he's learned all the methods to study, right? That our whole goal is to help the parents get tools so that they can teach it to their kids, so the kids can use it themselves. Because like we say, spelling words and sight words, and even like Latin. I don't know any Latin, but our son does Latin, so I can't help him with that. So he needs to be able to divide the word and figure how to study it and learn it and things like that. So that's what we did for him.
Right.
So
yeah, exactly. And the one thing I think where, in addition to all the things you were talking about with him, the thing I love the best is it's preserved his love of learning. He
oh my
loves
gosh, yes.
learning. He loves learning new things, finding out new things, reading things. Like you said, his spelling, yes, there's still some issues, and his handwriting is, well, he may be able to blame that on having a dad who's a doctor, but he loves learning. So
well, even just yesterday, he said he was he's going to high school next year, and he was talking about what classes he could take, and he was looking at programming and computers and things like that. And he was like, well, I'm not sure I'm going to take it because I learned that in the summer during my summer camp. And I said, well, then it would be easy for you. But he says, no, but I want to learn. So he is gotten to the point that, and he's always loved learning, and we've helped him so much from the beginning that didn't go away, because he's gained all the confidence and had the support all along. And
yeah. I think actually, so that's kind of why we wanted to offer the three things that we wanted to offer. The first is the survival guide. We call it the survival guide. It's the survival guide for parents of smart kids struggling in elementary school. And this is our early identification tool, right? It's our
connecting
the dots, right? Because like we were way back then, oh, my son's having a little trouble with reading, and oh, by the way, he has a speech issue, and you know what? He can't tie his shoes, and you don't realize that a lot of these things are all connected through. So in the survival guide, we actually go through each of the different aspects. We do reading,
writing, all these,
math, fine motor skills. Even stuff with like dress, clothes and that kind of stuff, and tying shoes.
Our goal is like, we've gone through the whole thing, and we spend the whole. I was reading and learning all these things that I was, when I was waiting for him at the classes, and I said, well, for us, we've accomplished what we needed to accomplish, and we've done our brought him to a place that he's independent. But now our goal is just to share everything with everybody. Not everything works for everybody, and dyslexia is a broad thing. But at the same time, we share everything that we've done, everything that hasn't done, like the different reading classes, which one is better than others to get started, and why some of them don't work, or all the tools that we've used, all the energy leaks, because your kids are really, really stressed when they're struggling. So, if you can find ways with the clothes, because, like, again, the tying the shoes and the zippers and all these things, there's so many little things that we don't realize, like even like for sports, or, they have to change in the shirts and all these little things that are energy leaks for them, that they're stressing out. They could be like, oh my gosh, I have to unbutton my shirt and do on that. So all the things that we've done, that's what we do. We are all sharing everything that we have learned along the way. And that's
and well, as I talk about the other two things, the sight words and the spelling words, some of these tools are things we learned from other people, and we've basically taken the best of what we've learned from other people and kind of collated it together, brought it together, and made it understandable. The other thing I love about our products is they're all visual, right?
Because I'm dyslexic.
Yeah.
I understand.
And also because parents, we're busy, right? We're a lot of parents are working. They've got kids to take care of. They've got the house to deal with, the whatever. You've got a life, and you don't have time to sit down and read some of these books on dyslexia are 200, 300, 400 pages thick, and even
jargon,
right.
right? That was the thing I was struggling with because I struggle with reading. I was busy running a company, having my kids struggling in school. I was like, I'm not going to read all these books. So even if you're not struggling with reading, when you come home after work, you're like, oh my gosh, am I going to have to read 400 page to maybe find one thing that I need? So we're like, okay, everything that we're going to do is on video, and it's short, it's simple. I need it short and simple,
Right.
just for me as a dyslexic. So everything is so easy to understand, find the solutions. It's divided in sections. Everything that we do is based on that.
Right, exactly. So each of these we sell on our website for $27. We're gonna because we really want to help as many people as we can, and I'll put this link on in the chat here. If you come to our website and you use the discount code, let's see what code I used. Where's the discount code? 3 mistakes. If you use discount code 3 mistakes, basically what we're going to do is you get all three for the price of one. So it'll be $27 for everything. I'm sorry, no, it's $19.99 for everything. So you can check that out. Let me put the link in the chat so people can have it. And there we go. All right, and if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to also email us. You can email us at info@dyslexic.
You're writing it as a dyslexic, my friend.
And unstoppable.com. You can also reach out to us on our Facebook page. All right. I hope it's been helpful for people. If you have any questions, of course, reach out to us. And do take advantage of the special because we'll leave it up for the next 2 days. All right. Thanks a lot.
Good night.